Spencer McLaughlin, Locked On College Football. Hey, good to see you.
Hi.
BYU has a lying,
I'm also seeing you.
Terrible, awful NIL collective in their royal blue thing. At least that is the take that has been reported by multiple outlets now. I know Sports Illustrated picked it up, and I'll read a couple quotes from that. The Monty Show was talking about this one on the same program where they said that the Big 12 is going to be poached by the SEC and the Big 10. And Crew Wakely, Isaiah Bogdan said with their NIL, they had cuts. There were complete cuts, that they were expecting compensation and they were taken out. And some players initially thought, direct quote here from SI, initially thought it was a clerical error, but as the transfer portal window closed without any payments hitting their accounts, many began to suspect something else was at play. Then the quote here is from a player who said, allegedly, that BYU's NIL guy spoke to the team and said, I'm not here to pay your rent or bills. I'm not here for any of that. You guys are entitled, greedy, asking me for money. This sounds like a really good example.
I thought you were about to say a word that had to get edited out.
This sounds like a really good example of a very obvious fabricated lie. Under what circumstance would an NIL collective leader walk in front of the team and say, you're asking me for money, you want me to pay your bills? Under what circumstance would these contracts, their actual funds, be withheld from the team? It sounds like dudes who have left the program who are just kind of pissed off that BYU's good and they're not a part of the culture and couldn't assimilate to whatever's happening in Provo.
Well, you know, my surprise level is at a 15 out of 10, Drake, that something that was rolled out at the college level with no guidance or regulation for something that is a professional business with licensing and regulation. I can't believe that we're having these instances pop up so many times. I mean, Jaden Rashada sued Florida because he was promised money and it never showed up. And, you know, instead of college football looking at that as the, you know, shiny example of, hey, this is not good, we should do, they'd have done nothing because there's nothing anyone can do. Who's going to do it? The conferences have to do it, right? Ideally, in an enforcement world, whether from the player standpoint or from the collective standpoint, enforcement would come from the conferences because there is no overarching governing body. Ideally, it'd be the NCAA, but as I mentioned earlier, that's a toothless organization. So you have now created a world in which the rest of society has decided, yeah, it's good to have some rules, give people structure, and allow this to be a legitimate business transaction. But college sports said, don't need it, don't want it, couldn't even think of how we would do it. And this is what you get over and over and over again. It takes more professional training and certification to cut hair in this country than to be a quote-unquote NIL agent for a player. That's, someone riddle me that.
You could do it.
And explain how that makes any logical sense.
You could do it tomorrow.
I could start being someone's representation. Parents, relatives have represented kids before with no idea about what it means to be an agent. Collectives are separate entities from the school, which is beneficial to the school in some ways, because then they're not beholden to Title IX, but the collective is beholden to, well, just the collective. Like this to me just reeks of another example of why this was rolled out, or of how this was rolled out so poorly.
Does it reek of that, or does it reek of, to me it reeks of, and there have been BYU players, current players, who have now told like Bro Bible or have tweeted or have said to multiple sources, hey, this is wrong, this is incorrect. To me, it's more so these athletes who are no longer a part of the program just trying to take advantage of a system that has no checks and balances. They see that it's a wild, wild west. Why don't I rag on my former school? Why don't I defame the BYU Cougars because I'm ticked off about something that I'm not there anymore? And for what? Another moment in the spotlight? Because there's no way. There's no way. You talked about it earlier. Why would the SEC want Big 12 schools, right? Why would the NIL collective leader walk in the locker room and say, I'm not paying a single one of you. You're greedy. That's the opposite of what the person's job is. That's effectively me sitting here on this show for 30 minutes and saying, don't listen to the podcast. Don't listen to the podcast. Please turn it off. Please turn it off. It's antithetical.
People should do that, you know.
It's antithetical to what BYU is attempting to do. This doesn't make any sense. This feels like the I don't know if the boy who cried wolf would really work here, but it feels like the guy who cried NIL malpractice.
You know, I remember hearing that children's story. My dad read it to me in bed as a wee lad. The player that cried NIL foul.
It was a great one. It had pictures and everything. I love it.
Yeah. The money was exchanged in brown bags with a green dollar sign on the outside of it. And inside were gold coins that were dumped into a giant vault with a diving board.
And as funny as that is, that's what this sounds like to me. It sounds like somebody gets fired and immediately, my boss was bad.
Here's what I'll give, we'll say half benefit of the doubt. If we read in 2 days, BYU has moved on from the leader of their NIL collective, I think we will know the story was legitimate and accurate. But if that doesn't happen, boy, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out for him here. Going as the funding mechanism for a university's athletic department and saying, I'm not paying you, like, okay. When I go to a restaurant, you know, there's someone who takes my order and then brings it to me. If that person were to then just hold my food and say, you ordered this? Yes, I ordered
greedy
that.
Little pig.
You want this? Oh, okay. Well, guess what? Screw you, man. Yeah. Throw it all over the restaurant and then just not give it to me. So if this guy gets fired, probably happen. If he doesn't get fired, I'm going to go with, this didn't happen.
It is one of the stories of all time.
It's one of the stories of
doubt.
All time in recent memory that will go down in infamy for
doubt. That's the button that I'm pressing, is the X doubt button. Coming up, discrimination. Gotta talk about it. This is Locked On Big 12, part of the Locked On Podcast.
Why are you laughing?
Your team every day. Today's show brought to you by Fabric. I've been trying to tell you very recently that Fabric is one of our new valued sponsors of the Locked On College Network. Life moves fast, especially when you have a family. One day you're watching your kids take their first steps. Before you know it, they're off to college. That's why securing their future is so important. Fabric by Gerber Life makes it simple to get term life insurance that fits your family's needs. With Fabric, apply for term life insurance, and you can be covered in under 10 minutes. In many cases, no health exam is required. Peace of mind, affordable coverage beyond life insurance. They offer free digital wills and access to investment accounts to help you plan for your children's future. Join the thousands of parents who trust Fabric to help protect their families. Apply today in just minutes at meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Meetfabric.com/lockedoncollege. Policies issued by Western Southern Life Insurance Company. Not available in certain states. Prices subject to underwriting and health questions. That is Fabric.